Hi, this is Michael on YouTube Guitar Tutorials on YouTube, and we are continuing my tutorial on my process for adjusting the AXFX2XL chord default amp model and how to converge on the tone you're looking for. I may or may not have mentioned it in the previous part of this tutorial, but each amp model is very complex, and one of the things you should do is not rely on adding a lot of blocks. First, start with your core amp model here and get to know these parameters. You don't have to understand every technical aspect of these parameters. What I'm going to explain is a method that any beginner can use with the AXFX. But remember, this is a sophisticated modeling device. It is not a plug-and-play device. It's going to be sensitive to its input. So my input is going to be different than any other user. So that's why it's important to spend time on these parameters in order to converge on the tone you're looking for. Because if you take somebody else's preset, the particular combination of parameters may not get you the same tone. So have a couple reference clips like I had up here and use those and iterate. Listen and adjust. Listen and adjust. One of the things you can do though first is to try to work out which of these parameters are the most sensitive to tone. Some are very subtle and they don't require a whole lot of tweaking. But it'll still be a lot of potential parameters you can work with, but you'll significantly narrow down the number of combinations by eliminating certain things. So here was our core AC-30 tone. And by the way, if you ever see me up here muting this, it's just so you don't hear the strings through my microphone and you get the pure tone from the amp model. Now, I'm going to be making adjustments here without turning the mic off because I need to be speaking at the same time. So you're going to hear my pick hitting the strings. So let's go through this. First thing you probably noticed is it was the sound compared to my model and the Edge, it's overdriven. So the first thing you want to learn to understand is the input drive. This is going to give you that crunch. It's one of the things that will give you the crunch. So obviously if you turn this down, much better. But now you've lost some gain. And the master volume is already up. By the way, I have always left the master volume up. I haven't played with this much. Apparently there's some dynamics with the amp, and Edge does play the amp very loud. So quick tip, I don't mess with the master volume. I think if anything, I just bring it down to about 9.5. But if you're going to bring your input drive down, in order to keep your levels, you might need to increase some level here. Okay, so let's turn up the level. And now you've got a cleaner tone, but there's still some heaviness, is what I describe in it. So get to learn, the bass is a standard, your bass. So this obviously is going to have a big effect. The bass, right, if you do this, swing them both ways. Swing them full left and swing them full right. And when you do that, you'll get an idea of how it changes the tone. And then you go back to your clip and you listen to the clip and you go, all right, where do I think this particular knob should be relative to the tone? The problem with that is when you change one knob and then you go back and listen to the tone, it's probably going to change your tone because it's not a linear relationship, and any change in one knob is going to increase the tone overall, and you might have to tweak some other knobs that you've already changed. That's where the time comes in. That is the core of what I do. I am always changing one thing and then adjusting with another. Mid-range, obviously, I think is really important to the Edge's tone. I think it's got more mids in it than this model has, so this is something you might want to play around with. Turn the mids down. Notice how it's kind of flat. So I kind of say to myself, okay, let's put the mids up a little bit. So maybe the mids are up here. The bass I didn't like, so let's turn the bass down. And actually, what I've experimented with is for whatever reason, it's not a right or wrong. I prefer the cut and, you know, bring the bass down a little bit. Treble. Now, treble is kind of interesting here. You've got a treble knob here, you've got a bright switch, and the bright switch is on. And when the bright switch is on, it's relying on this bright cap. So, turn the bright cap, and watch how ice picky this is. So now you immediately know this is really a core knob that you need to pay attention to. And you can read on the boards on what the bright cap is in an AC-30, and some people think it's too ice picky and they actually remove this capacitor. That stands for capacitor. In this case, if you turn it on, you're going to have to find the right sweet spot for the bright cap. Okay. Now notice you also have a bright knob. So make sure you don't make this too ice picky, but obviously you have a lot of play here in getting your treble tone. And you also have the treble knob. Okay. Okay, now look at how that... What I like to do is I like simplicity. So one of the tricks that I've used is I turn the bright switch off and I don't worry about this, and I just crank the treble. Okay, so because I find that the bright switch with the bright cap up is just too bright. So, but there's no right or wrong answer. You can also bring the treble down and use the bright switch. But in this case, you know, what I tend to do is try to simplify things, and I don't want to have this parameter, so I'm just trying to work with less. Less is more. And then maybe use this bright switch here. See? It's a little more subtle than this bright cap. This is very sensitive. So I kind of like this one because you can get some brightness out of it, but it's not overly sensitive. Okay. So we're already better here. We're already better. So then the next thing I'll do is let's turn on the delay. Okay, we got the delay on here. We go back to our clip and we listen to it. And I'll listen to each note. So let me turn off the mic and let's play each of those. Just in 10 minutes, we've improved our tone quite substantially. And we're only on the basics here. And this is what's so great about the Axe, is because each one of these, more so by the way the power amp, the power supply, and the dynamics, are other options that you're going to adjust and be able to get even better tone. So here, you know, what have I done so far? I've decreased some bass because I felt that there was too much bass and muddiness in this core amp model. I increased the mids because if I play, listen to the G string in the first part of this riff that Edge plays. Here's how I think about things. I break things down to every note, and I just listen to the one note. So take your brain and have your brain focus on just the E string or just the G string. That note right there, it's still too muddy. I don't like it. But you got to listen carefully. You got to keep iterating. That's not bad, but this one, still muddy. We're missing something. We're missing some definition. So you listen to one note and go through these parameters and adjust the tone for that note. Then listen to a bass note and adjust the bass note or the parameters that affect the bass. Adjust those. And we're going to go through more of them here in a minute. But that's the process. It's iterative. Listen to a chord and play a chord. Listen to a clean note. Listen to a distorted note. Listen to one note at a time and then adjust accordingly. But as you can see, it's already working. So let's move on. Let's say we got the brightness up here a tad. And by the way, I'm not going off of any cheat sheet on what my parameters are for my amp model. And as you know, when I switched to my Streets tone here, I didn't even show the parameters because I don't want to see them. This is my own little test to myself. Let's go to depth. What does depth do? Well, For U2, a lot of people know Edge plays with a Herdem pick, and he plays on the side of the pick so that the dimples scratch the strings. I like to do both when I'm doing my tone. Here it is scratching the strings. And then I like to use the pick regular and see what it sounds like. Do both. That will help you, that'll give you more input as to what tone to change. So let's go to depth. What's depth do? I think depth kind of muddied things a little bit. So I don't know, let's, that one doesn't seem to do as much. Let's play an E chord. I'm gonna bring the level up here so hopefully you guys can hear this okay. You know, I don't need to know what it does, I'm just using my ears. Let your ears, trust your ears. So let's not do too much depth here. Maybe we bring it up, or maybe was it 0, I think, so let's just leave it there. Got the master volume. Fat switch increases the mids even more. I don't think we need that. Bright cap, if you don't like the brightness the way I did it, so turn on the bright switch, but then you're gonna have to back off on your treble. So make sure you're always balancing things. Saturation switch here, authentic ideal. I don't know what it does. Play a chord. Oh, ideal. It boosted the volume a great deal, so I don't know about that. That's interesting. Authentic. Off. So on something like this, I'll say to myself, you know what? Let's leave the default for now. I don't know what it does. I'm assuming because this sat switch is off that this sats drive doesn't do anything, but let's check. Yeah, sat drive is not doing anything, I don't think. So we'll just leave it, you know, wherever. If you could send authentic. I don't know really what it's doing, so doesn't do much for me. I could be wrong. I don't know what I did in my model, but let's leave it there. You got this master volume trim. It's just a trim, so you know I'm kind of feeling like you know, you can play with this and see if it does anything, but I like to use trims sparingly. Just leave them where they are. So now let's go to the GEQ page. All right. Hint to everybody, for everybody on any amp model: do not overdo things on this page. Leave this for last. If you find yourself moving these sliders a great deal to change your tone, you're off base. It means your core tone in the other amp parameters is not correct, or it could be better optimized and better set up. So this should be the very final thing you do to tweak your tone. After hours and hours of figuring out these parameters, go back to this and go, you know what, it's a little ice picky, I'll take a little off the highs, I'll put a little more in the mids. I do have a curve here in my model that goes up a little, especially here in the mids, because I wanted certain frequencies to come out that I heard in certain clips. But it should be no more than a dB or two. 2 would be a lot. So, because as soon as you start doing this 4 or 5 dB, and I've seen presets that have huge, these sliders way up, it messes with your levels, it distorts things. So this is just to hone your tone, okay? So right now we're gonna try to get there without changing these at all, okay? 8-band, this is an 8-band equalizer. Post power amp, I just leave that. So let's leave the EQ alone and now move to the preamp. So what do we got in the preamp? Tubes, let's leave the tubes alone. I don't, you know, I guess you could change the tubes and see what happens. I don't know, not doing much for me. That changes a little bit. But it's not changing things enough for me to worry about right now. So just leave them. Preamp bias. 0.4 negative. Oh, now this changes things. Interesting. Preamp bias. What's happening here? Now listen to this really carefully. I'm going to turn the mic off for this one. Okay, so I kind of like this one. It's making it more clear. So, you know, maybe we increase this one a little bit. Again, don't worry about if it's should be set because it's the default model that you can't change it. Just change it. If you like it and it works, change it. I think that's one of the things I've been willing to do and why I've been able to get some great tones out of the Axes. I don't go by any rules. I just listen to my ear and I make the changes. Preamp hardness, what does that do? Seems to give it some volume. And some clarity, in my ears anyway. Let's go back. Yeah. Let's bring this up. I like what I'm hearing. That's a fuller tone. I like that. Crunch, what does crunch do? I don't think it's doing a lot. I don't think crunch is doing much here. Now, maybe that's because it's dependent on something else. Maybe when a different knob is turned in a different position, this will have more of an effect. It just might be, given the way I have the rest of this set up, that this doesn't make a difference. And that's the iterative nature. Later on, if you make a change, you might want to go back to any of these knobs and see how they react to the new setup. So let's, I'm just going to leave this one at the 11 of where it was. So let's leave that. Comp type, let's just authentic, comp time, comp ratio. Again, just play with them. I think the comp kind of made it. Again, this comp seemed to make it more full sounding and a little more clear, so I just leave this one where it was, where I don't remember, it was 76 something. So, comp time, these times usually don't, in my ears, make a big difference. 3.7. Okay, comp time, I don't know, I don't hear a big difference there, so let's just keep it. Same thing, go through each one of these and just figure out, what does it do? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Go back to your clip, right? Every once in a while. Okay, let's stop here for a second. We'll go back, turn our delay on. Now, I don't know if you could hear that, but that G string is still a little bit more muddled. It's still missing some chime. It's still missing something. And I can't put can't really tell exactly what could be wrong, but let's just keep going with the amp model. We were on the preamp. We messed with these a little bit. Here's one called definition. I kind of like that sounds interesting, so let's play with the definition. Let's go all the way down. Ah, interesting. Notice how muted that is. It's awful. You'd never have the definition set to -10. Let's go all the way up. Okay, so this now has some very subtle treble brightness type tone to it, but it's also got a clarity issue with it. So that's how I describe this definition. It's clarity and tone. And again, I don't care what technically it's doing. It's just another variable to use to hone the tone you're trying to get at, okay? It's not a right or wrong, it's just a different type of treble song, or a cutoff, or whatever, but it's another parameter that Cliff and Fractal Audio have exposed to you to adjust. So let's increase and I like what it did to the G string here. Because I said the G seems to be kind of muted. Here it is, muted. That's awful. But if I go all the way up, here's the G. It's better, but it's too ice picky. So I say, okay, let's Let's bring this to 3 or something, all right? There we go. Pretty cool. Go back to the delay, turn it back on, listen to the clip, listen to it quickly, and play it. Notice already that the G has a more snap. It's got more clarity to it. And I know nothing about this model. I know nothing about this definition, what it technically does, but I moved it left and right, and I kind of think I'm converging on something that's a lot better. All right, so let's turn off the delay and let's keep going. So there are some things on the preamp definition. There looks like there's some plate frequencies here. Play with those a little bit. I don't remember if I changed them or not. Let's just look at this one. Okay, drastically changes the tone, so you got to be careful with this one. So notice this isn't much different up here. It acts more like a cutoff, and the guitar only has a certain frequency response and probably doesn't go to 40,000 hertz, obviously. So I kind of look at this as a cutoff, and I don't really, there are plate frequencies, it sounds like, and just try out. It's very technical in nature, but if you want to cut off some highs, these might be 2 different things that you could use to do it. But I think we got our highs pretty well. See a nice chime in there? That's without the scratch. I keep testing this. Tone location, well, let's see what it does. Let's go to the end. I don't like that. It's all fuzzy, and that's just a mess right there. So let's go back. Post. Pre. I don't remember where it was here now. I forgot already where it is. Let's just stay to post. Tone frequency, what's that do? Kind of made it empty, box filling like. If we go this way. Notice how it mutes. This is another one of those parameters that mutes things out. Lost the chime, lost the definition. That's not good, so keep it back. So, that's a little too much, too empty, right? It's missing, it cut off too many frequencies. So you just kind of find a sweet spot that you like. I forget what this was at, but let's just, I seem to like it more left than right. Let's go with that. Now let's move to the power amp. There's not as many things here. Got some interesting names, cathode squish, negative feedback. Let's try negative feedback. It says 0. Up. Did you hear that? There was a click. Hear that click? Click. Interesting. It's turning something on. Notice how even a slight increase, even turning this to just a small number, increases the volume. Interesting. Very small amount, and this already changed the tone a lot. So now I'm going to turn it more. So that's interesting. To me, this tone, this knob, kind of makes it more alive. It makes it louder. And be careful, volume will always in general, make things sound kind of better. Your ears will hear things differently. It'll bring out certain frequencies differently. So just because something's louder doesn't mean that it's any different. Just take your preset and turn the volume way down on the level, and you won't be able to hear things as much. And we all have different hearing and different frequency response. So in this case, I kind of like whatever this is doing, but it is increasing the volume. Let's go all the way up. Now it didn't seem to make a drastic change between 5 and 10. In this case, I'll kind of back off and go, okay, well I don't like this. And by the way, the preset was sounding pretty good before we even moved this knob. Notice now I'm moving the knob, and I like it a little better. So, I don't know, let's just leave it up here somewhere. I kind of like this. It's subtle, but it did make a difference in the tone. Now, one of the things you need to know about negative feedback, and I only noticed this on the AXFX because I believe one of the knobs here should be paired with this. It's on a different tab. On the basic tab, you'll notice the present knob has, this knob here used to be high cut, it's now presence. So if you go back to here and turn this off, notice the basic tab, this is now a high cut. These are related, and I wish they would move this high cut knob down to the power amp right next to this. Because when I turn this on, well, you'll notice on the AXFX tab, on your AXFX screen, you'll notice that this changed to, and it changes here from high cut to presence. So that means this knob has something to do with this knob. So now you go back to your tone and you play with this one. Okay, it's not doing too much, but there's something in there. So I kind of like the clarity with it. So I don't like it off. I don't like it there. It's taken some clarity out of it. So let's keep the presence up, maybe a little bit. It doesn't seem like it's hurting to go up a little higher. This parameter, negative feedback, I think is something important, as I've learned over time, to this amp model. I like it on. I don't care if I'm turning this AC-30 model into an AB amp. It doesn't matter to me. I don't like the tone with the negative feedback off. I think that's just better. So then we can go to this power amp hardness. Ultimately, I kind of like, just play with it. Let's go hard. That's not seeming, no difference. So maybe we just put it in the middle. When things don't make a huge difference, I try to go more in the middle. But then you iterate and you'll tweak things over time. Power amp bias, 0.1. All right, I don't know. We'll leave it there. Bias excursion, go through each of these. What do they do for you? I don't know, that one. That one doesn't seem to do as much. It's not as sensitive, I should say. Cathode squish. Oh, this does something. It's better on the high side, so I'll leave it with that 70%, wherever it was. Again, you go through each of these. Depth frequency, I'm going to skip a couple because you get the idea, but you should go through every one of these, swing them left and right, and find a sweet spot. Then go back to your clip, and then go back through all of them again and keep converging to your tone for your guitar. Frequency response, presence frequency. Oh, interesting. Here's another one that seems to suck the clarity out of it. 10 is awful. I like that much more to the left, so we'll put it here. See how clear that is? See how it's just nice. Okay, now let's go back to our clip. Let's see a edge. Now if you notice with the tone so far, it's missing some chunkiness, it's missing some drive. So we've changed a lot of knobs so far. Let's go back to the basics and the input drive and let's increase it. Here, this is the iterative nature of what I'm doing. I improved the clarity, I improved the mid-range and the treble, but I'm losing the crunch. So we're going to put the input drive up. Turn off the mic. Okay, so what I just did there is I increased the drive and it did fill out a lot better. Now listen to it. And by the way, I thought it was a little chimey, so you saw me reduce the presence and this brightness, because we learned before the presence is related to this negative feedback, and it is kind of a cutoff treble-y type of thing. So I took a little sharpness out of it there, and I took the treble brightness down a little bit, and we increased the drive here a little bit. So now let's go back to our clip. I'm going to turn off the mic.
Please go home.
Already sounding so much better, as you can tell. So let's keep going. Let's keep going. Back to the amp model. So we did the negative feedback and we found out this presence. What did we do? Did we change this depth frequency? I forget. Yeah, I don't like it that up there, so I think it was pretty good right in there. And we've made some great improvements here in changing probably 6 to 7 main core knobs. Power supply, power sag now you might want to take a look at, right? If it's 0. PA off, that means power amp off. You don't want that. You definitely don't want that. You want the power amp on. And the sag is not going to be, it doesn't seem to be doing a whole lot, but, find the sweet spot that you seem to like. Power tube bias, let's see what this does. I can't tell if it does much, so I'm just going to come off of it a little bit. I'm not going to have any tremolo on this. There's this kind of time constant. I don't think the AC line frequency is going to do much. You can experiment. Speaker, I haven't found this makes a huge difference in tone. Obviously, if you change some of these cutoffs and frequencies a great deal and change the slope of this curve, yes, it will change your tone. I have found that I can pretty much stick to the default settings. Maybe I tweak things a little bit. Look at this page as kind of the EQ page. Look at the EQ page and the speaker page as pages to use for when you really want to make minor tweaks to your tone. Leave these for last. Dynamics page. Same type of thing. Experiment with them. What does the character frequency do? Maybe it doesn't do a whole lot, so keep it in the middle. Comp clarity, what does comp clarity do? Oh, I think this probably, notice, the other thing to pay attention to, comp clarity, output comp. Well, if the output comp is at 0, I bet the comp clarity doesn't do much. So if it's not doing anything, make sure it's not linked to something else. So if I did put the output comp, yeah, this is some sort of compression with regard to somewhere in the signal chain. So I don't like compression because I'm biased against it, but that doesn't mean this might not help your tone. It seems to do a little bit, but I'm not going to play with that right now. Pick attack, this one's interesting. like the pick attack. It's subtle. Let's play without the scratching. It's a little flat, a little muted, so you know, this might be something I would increase a little bit and not overdo it. Dynamic presence, I don't know what that is. Yeah, there's some change there. Kind of makes it pop a little bit more, but I'll probably just keep it where it is. I'm just trying to give you a flavor for what I do and how I do it, and how I've learned that certain things are related to others. But you have to just spend your time with it. I think we covered most of them. Oh, transformer drive. I remember this transformer drive is not on the same page as the speaker, I think, in the AXFX. It's here in AXEdit. Notice what it does. Oops, sorry, wrong one. That doesn't do a whole lot. So I forget where that was, but let's just leave it there. I meant the transformer match. Watch what happens when I turn it right. It's all distorted. And when I went left, the volume goes up. And you get this clarity. There's some sort of matching principle going on, probably within a couple components or stages of the amplifier with this, that this adjusts. Fuzzy, too fuzzy here. That doesn't work. But I like the clarity, so on something like this I might go a little left. So I forgot to mention this transformer match. It's not on the speaker tab on the AXFX, it's only here on the AXEdit. So I forget which page it's on in the AXFX, but that's one that actually does make a big difference in your tone, so you might want to play with that. Power supply, I think we covered most of these now. You know, this has been just a random going through it quickly, and as you can see, we've already improved our tone quite a bit. So I'm going to turn, in doing so, we've increased the volume of the preset because we turned on the negative feedback and some other things. And we've got a little more drive in here. The master volume's up. I don't know how this is going to record through ScreenFlow, which is what's recording my screen, but let's see how it works. So I'm going to play the edge again, and then we're going to play this preset.
What do you want?
Okay, so I'm going to play the edges clip again. I'm going to play with him. I'm going to play right over it, and then I'm going to stop the edge and play my clip. So now let's do the final test. Let's play the core tone here, play a few chords, and let's see how far we've come in just half an hour to 40 minutes. Let's see how this has changed. I have not saved this preset. You've obviously seen all of the amp settings in case you like these and you want to see where they were, where I set them. This was very quick, by the way, and this is not my core amp model, but I think it's close, and it proves that anybody, by just taking time, taking an hour or two, you can move these knobs in many directions and you can hone in and iterate on your tone. Here's where they're set right now, just so you can stop the video and see where they are, because I'm going to erase this. And the reason is because I didn't save it because I want to go back to the default. And when I go back to the default, I want to compare the tone. Okay, here's some of the changes we made, and I'm not claiming these are right or wrong, it's just an example. Okay, So there's all the settings. Now let's just play, I'm going to turn the mic off and play the riff with and without delay, and then we're going to go back to the original and default, and we're going to see what it sounds like. Before we go play the other riff, I forgot I wanted to show you what to do to tweak that even further. Now we go to another clip. If we go to Pride, and now let's play that one. Sounds a lot better, a lot better. But now you can use that clip and listen to a bass note and tweak some more of your parameters, and then listen to a high E note and then change some of your other parameters related to clarity and chime and treble. That's the iterative process I go through. It's very straightforward, but it takes a lot of time. You're constantly converging on tone by using reference clips. Let me just turn the delay on again. I'll play it one more time, and then we're going to delete all these settings, and we're going to go to the core default map model. So first we're going to do this version that we just did, then my version, and then the default. And there you go. As you can see, we started with something muddy and crunchy and muddled and just lacked chime. It just doesn't work for U2 in my humble opinion. But we spent 30, 45 minutes, and I randomly, without looking at my amp model block at all, we went through almost every single knob, and that's what you should do. Test them all, flip them, try different combinations. The combination that I showed you today was not even close to mine, and you notice how close they came. In fact, the version we built here was a little brighter and maybe clearer than mine. It turns out that every single version's gonna sound so different when you do an A-B comparison. It's amazing how something so close can sound so different. But you can get there. You can converge to something very, very close. Well, that's about it. That's what I wanted to show. I think we successfully, it took longer than I thought, but it worked really well in that we took the default model in the AXFX and we converged to the tone in these two clips. And no, it's not exact and it's not perfect. My preset's not exact or perfect, but it's pretty darn close. And I've invested many, many hours into this process and tweaking my amp model. And what you saw on the screen was probably very, very close to mine. But also remember, you can get the exact same tone with an entire different set of combination of parameters. That's the amazing thing about the Axe. There is no right or wrong answer. So when you ask for a preset, don't assume you have to have that preset to sound like that. I just spent an hour here taking you through how to get great tone or how to converge to some great tones. And you can use this to take any preset, but more importantly, a default preset, and build it on your own. Because if you take someone else's preset, they're going to be honed in for someone else's equipment, and it's not going to work well. Here you have complete control of the path you're taking and where you're going, and you're learning how to use the modeler at the same time. So sorry about that. As I mentioned, this is not scripted. I'm just trying to provide everyone with my stream of consciousness and my experience. It's not a right, it's not a wrong, it's just works for me, and I figured I'd share it with everyone, and I'm hoping that this video will help anyone that has an Axe FX rely on their own ears and capabilities and not rely on other people's presets. You really don't need them. You just need to focus on your core amp model. There's just a few tabs here. You need to go through them, spend a few hours, and adjust them. And try different combinations. Step away, rest your ears for a couple hours, and the next day or a day, and come back and listen to it. And I guarantee you when that happens, you're going to go, well, that's not what it sounded like. That's what happens. Your brain starts to play tricks on you. It starts to hear things. You want to step away. You want to come back. You want to iterate. You want to iterate over an hour or two like we've done here. And then you want to iterate over a day or a month or a year. And what will happen is you'll converge onto better and better tone with the Axe FX. That's it. Keep it simple. Focus on the amp model. And don't clutter yourself with all this other stuff. For example, here was the core amp model. If I turn on a comp, and I turn on an EQ, and I start messing with everything, and I need more mids, and I need more highs, and I need less lows, start doing all this stuff, and I need the enhancer, it just makes it worse. Should have done this earlier. This is the last part of the video. Last lesson. Don't add all this stuff. It's just going to mess with your levels. It's going to make things distorted and muddled. It's going to make things worse. Take a preset, start basic. Don't put all this stuff in here. All that you need is right here in the amp model. Don't overdo it. Keep it simple, focus on one block, and you will be unbelievably happy with your Axe FX. Thank you for listening. I hope this is helpful. If I get questions about this video, I will do a follow-up video and answer those questions. But hopefully this was thorough, and it allows people to get more out of the best and most sophisticated modeler on the planet, the Axe FX 2 XL. With that, I'm going to move to my presets, and we're going to play with the edge here a little bit.
Mercy. What do you want?
Okay, I'm going to play on top of edge here in about a bar or two. And there you go. Thank you for watching YouTube guitar tutorials on YouTube. A lot more to come. Take care.